Hello and welcome to my YouTube tutorial on how to dry brush clouds in. Okay, this scene I've just roughly blocked in an open water acrylic scene. The canvas size is about 1.10 meters high. I think it's by about 70-75 wide, okay? So basically, before I lead you through how and what I'm doing with the clouds, I just want you guys to know that the perspective I'm after when it's finished, because it's awfully hard to tell at the moment because it looks so atrocious and the water just looks really shocking. It is only one layer of paint down, okay? But the perspective I'm after in the end is that basically you're sitting in a tiny little boat, not a motorboat or anything, just a really tiny little dinghy kind of thing, or sitting on a surfboard paddling, and you're really close to that water. So basically you're just bobbing up and down right on top of the water. So the distant water is still it will feel quite close to you, and the sky and the perspective I want that you're not looking directly up into it, but I just want you to get that feeling that the sky is really above you though, okay, not close to you at all. The technique I've chosen for this scene, the dry brush technique, I've chosen because after many paintings of pulling my hair out and crying because I can't get acrylics to look not scratchy, I've discovered that this technique, when you use a really soft bristled brush that's really old and frayed, it takes away that scratchy appearance that acrylic paints can quite often leave you. Okay, so I'm just literally, the paintbrush is dry. For this horizon line of cloud, the band of cloud I'm doing at the moment, I'm blobbing quite thick amounts of paint onto the brush, splodging onto the canvas, and then as the paint wears out on the brush, I'm then just pushing the paint around basically in different circular motions and different directions, just to push that paint around to blend it out and to soften the top aspect of these clouds. So I'm coming back over now and I'm just kind of like pushing the paint around, and then yep, here we go, just in those little round movements, little crisscross round movements, just pushing the paint out a little bit more just to soften it. By softening some aspect of a cloud, whether it be the side, top or bottom, it just helps give that dimension because it's not just this blob of fat solid colour. Okay, so I'm just literally blocking in where I want the clouds at the moment. I'm not so much worried about the shape or highlighting or where the shadows are going to be. I just really want to just pop them in, stand back and have a quick little look to see what kind of perspective I'm getting here, okay, or what I'm achieving, or if I'm achieving what I'm after. Some people that are new to painting, once you've blocked in a sky, okay, sometimes it can be a little bit, in early days, a little bit scary to like then go pop clouds on, because you can get a bit scared of like ruining that beautiful sky that you've already got. The trick is in that case, okay, don't be scared of it, because if you work on a base coat of paint that is dry, like for example in this one, the blue sky that I'm working on top of is completely dry. So now that I'm doing the clouds, if I'm not happy with them, or if you're not happy with what you've done, you can just literally go back over with a clean brush, wet it, and just literally wash off what you've done. And most of the time, if you're really gentle in doing that, it doesn't ruin the base coat or the underneath, the first layer of what you've done. Then you can just start again, okay? You can also just work in really thin little bits of paint rather than the big splodges I'm working in here at the moment. So just start off really softly and in small amounts, spread it out, push it around, and then, yep, go from there. The good thing with acrylics is that once you wet your brush, if you're not happy with something, then you can just literally play around with it a lot, stretch it out, change shapes, add and take colour until you get the perspective you're after. Again here, I haven't wet the brush at all as yet. It's still just a dry brush technique. Now again, the shapes of the clouds might look a little bit odd at the moment, okay? But the overall perspective I'm after is that you want your eyes to be led to a point in the painting. This painting, I want the sky to be the focal point. So I want your eyes to literally go from the middle of the ocean up into the sky to be focusing on the sky. So I've got the clouds coming in from both sides, pointing up a little bit, just to kind of just give that really strong illusion that the sky is really tall and a fair bit above you. The other good thing with this technique, once the paint again starts lessening on the brush, you can take that brush, like I'm doing now, into different areas and just again push the brush a little bit firmer on the canvas, and it will just give you those really little wispy kind of cirrus-like clouds happening. So you can see the paint's quite thick on the brush here when I started. It's already getting a little bit less and less. So then you can just start pushing the brush out a little bit further. And you can see in this cloud I've just done here on the top right, there's that little bit of blue that's showing through some of the cloud, okay? Just to give that appearance that it's not a total blocking cloud. You still can see bits of sky through some of the clouds. Again, just softening the bottom of that cloud, stretching the paint out a little bit just to give it those few little wispy translucent areas. And it's all the little tricks like that that just really add up to giving dimension and depth to whatever subject that you're painting. It also makes it a little bit less of a task for the fact that after this is done and blocked in, okay, even though I've just used the one colour, there's less shading to come back and do. Like I'll come back and highlight a few areas. I'll add a few shadows in after. But just by using this technique, I find that you don't really have to come back and do huge amounts or several layers of highlighting and then shadowing after, because it's doing that for itself as you're going. Another good thing too that's really important to know, when I was learning clouds, okay, quite a few artists kind of work by the rule that, stick to the clouds, being really straight at the bottom and then, shape the tops of them, okay? I think they're the cumulus clouds, okay? Cumulus clouds, or the stratocumulus clouds, are actually quite often straight at the bottom with a little bit of shape at the top, okay? In paintings, I think there's a time and place for that, and I don't think that they look out of place, but it's really important to know that you do get cumulus clouds, you get cirrus clouds. There are 4 different types of clouds, okay? They all look different. Not all of them are straight at the bottom, and clearly the same that I'm doing now, you can see it's actually quite effective, but not one cloud straight at the bottom, okay? Obviously the horizon band, or that strip of cloud across the horizon, looks straight. But the other clouds certainly aren't, okay, and they don't look out of place. And I actually too feel that that makes it just look a little bit more realistic because they're not straight. Okay, so this is the second layer of titanium white over these lower clouds along the horizon strip. So I'm just coming back in now to add some highlights. In between each little area that I add the highlight to, I'm just kind of stopping where I am here now, just looking, just checking the perspective, just to see where I want the light hitting. This is where I'm now thinking, okay, you need to start reshaping and really start thinking of perspective here. Clouds are obviously developed in a couple of layers of painting. So each time that you add something, you do just need to just give a little bit more thought each time of exactly the perspective you want and how to achieve that. Just by literally splashing around some highlights or then coming back to shadow, pushing paint around to thin and soften some areas, and then leaving other areas a little bit more blocked in colour. Okay, you can see now I'm adding blue, okay. Another trick, a lot of people use all these fancy different colours for the shadows in clouds, okay. A really good trick, and especially for people that are beginning to paint, this is a fantastic way because you don't have all the confusion about how to make shadows. You don't have to think of complementary colours. What I've done here, I've just literally dipped the brush back into the exact same sky blue colour I used, and I'm now just going back over, and that's the colour that I'm using for some shadows, and also just popping it in some areas of the cloud just to break that cloud up where it's a little bit too thick in certain areas. So again, this area that I'm working on at the moment, I didn't have a huge amount of paint on the brush, so I've just had a tiny, tiny little bit of paint and just started pushing it out quite quickly before it dries, just to make that little bit of strip of cloud look a lot more translucent, I suppose, a little bit more thin and wispy than the rest. So we're getting closer to the end here, so I've nearly actually finished doing the clouds. So as you can see, it is quite a simple process. It's just one old soft bristled brush, basically two colours that you need, the titanium white and whatever sky colour that you've used to block in. So you don't need huge amounts of tubes of paint. And you can basically get the same effect as what you would with multiple tubes of paint, making up all the fancy, shadowing colours. There's a time and place for doing that, but I'm here just to say painting can be really simple. It doesn't have to be overly time consuming. You don't need all these fancy, expensive equipment and paints to do something that's really, really effective. So again, just coming back in to highlight some of the areas, just to break up the colours a little bit. So I hope you've enjoyed my dry brushing technique. If you've got any questions, please just type it in the comments down there or pop over and visit my art page on Jules Sharman Art. Feel free just to message me, whatever you'd like. If you've got any ideas of other issues, other things that you want me to go through, just feel free and let me know.